Welcome everyone. This is about as live as going to get. Today's an exciting day here with February 11th, 2020. Welcome to the Anderson Law Power Hour podcast with this sharp guy here, attorney Tim Anderson. Now, the views expressed on this podcast are solely those of the guests and authors. This podcast realizes it's for informational purposes only and does not constitute legal advice. Also, there is no attorney-client privilege. Feel free to chime in with your comments via Facebook. Legal consultation services will be determined at the time of your appointment. Anderson Law is a firm located at 2492 North Landing Road, Suite West, Anderson of VirginiaLawOffice.com, VirginiaLawOffice.com. The number 757-800-1000, 757-800-1000. As we speak, Mr. Anderson, it's happening live, streaming. House Bill, where are we at, 961?
Well, 961 is the House Bill. We are on 845 right now in the House of Delegates.
All right.
The Senate's over here doing their thing. I have a split screen action. Tara's standing right there behind there.
All right, Tara.
We've got all kinds of craziness going on. This is like a Tom Clancy thriller today, right?
I like that. It is kind of unnerving in some ways, but we're anxious to see the
balance of our constitutional rights are in the votes of the House of Delegates in moments from now. So, it's not going to happen right now. It may not even happen during this hour. So we're at 845. They are going through pretty quickly. And so maybe we'll see something happen here pretty quick. They're on 868 now. Jill Vogel's in the Senate right now on 1026. That doesn't have anything to do with what we're going to talk about. So that is where we are right this minute. Until this kind of pops up, I'm just going to keep watching it and see what happens.
Right.
And then we're going to just give some updates of what happened today so far. The bill that would make it a civil penalty to not report your firearm failed.
Okay.
So that was the one where if you lose your gun and you don't report it, you would have to pay a $250 fine.
Right. You told us about that before, right?
Yep. So that failed. That failed pretty close. They passed the resolution putting us into the electoral compact in the Senate. That went through. Actually, in the House. I'm sorry. The House one went through. So. This is the one where there'll be a conglomerate of states that will come together and they will tell their electors to vote how the popular vote works. The House of Delegates passed that today, and that'll go over to the Senate. So that was one we've had some concerns with. That one cleared the House of Delegates. So now we're on 885, just so you know. We're looking for 961 for this gun bill. So a little bit on the gun bill. It has been dramatically watered down.
Yeah, I've seen that,
and so right now, as it stands, it would be legal to keep your semi-automatic rifles. It would be legal to keep your suppressors. It would be legal to keep all these things. You're not going to have to register them. You'll be allowed to keep them. The only thing is you're not going to be able to sell them or transfer them after the deadlines, in Virginia at least. And so where the bite is on this one is with the magazines. They are making magazines, proposing to make magazines 12 or more a crime.
Right.
Even if you don't have the gun, just the possession of the magazine is going to be a crime. Now, it was a felony on Friday. On Monday, they made that down to a misdemeanor. So the big bite in this bill right now is going to be whether it's going to be a crime to have a magazine of more than 12. Right. So, Tara, you got the Facebook up there and you're looking at questions and stuff?
I do.
All right, good, because I can't see them from here. I can see them on my phone popping up, but we're not going to worry about those just yet. You just kind of keep track of all that.
Yeah.
So that is where we are. And, you know, like I've always said, a guy with 5 12-round magazines is always more safe than a guy with 4 15-round magazines. Right? Because, you know,
yes, sir, indeed,
that's the distinction. You know, you cross the 12-round magazine threshold and you are a danger, sir. But, you know, so that's what 961 is, and 961 has really turned into a big thing because it's going to affect everybody that has a handgun.
Yeah, we talked about this before, and we always appreciate your insight, but we know that certain weapons you are allowed to put X number into the magazine and you can hold one in the chamber.
Sure.
So they specifically, as you can see, honed in on the magazine versus that tactic, I would say.
Oh, 961.
961.
Yep, that's right. We're up
Live.
there at 961. I'm going to turn this up. It just popped up.
I'm going to be quiet.
Yeah. So anyway, they are just going after the magazine, and it'd be a crime to have the magazine even without the gun.
Okay.
So 961's happening right now live on the Anderson Law Power Hour. We couldn't have timed it any better. Thank you, General Assembly. Look at the views popping up.
Yeah, man.
Can't hear me? Oh, you can't hear it? Oh. All right.
Hey, put your mic there if you have to.
Yeah.
They have these style of firearms.
So we got Delegate Rush talking right now in opposition.
Just examples of the millions of Virginians that will be affected by this bill.
And he's right. He's right here. Millions of people will be affected because it deals with magazines and pistols.
Right.
And so there's...
That's right, yeah, that's right.
Who doesn't have a pistol that doesn't have a magazine in it?
I have several firearms in my home, and I don't have any magazines that are under 12 rounds.
See,
Yeah,
that's
all right.
exactly what Delegate Rush is saying.
If you ever said to one of your constituents that I'm not for taking your gun, this bill will do that. If you've ever said I'm for the Second Amendment, this bill will infringe on it. And so, Madam Speaker, these firearms, these implements...
Can you hear us, Megan, on the... can you hear that?
Common use, okay. And I would urge the defeat...
You know, what's weird about this is that they changed it from 10 rounds to 12 rounds.
Right.
The only gun that I really know that holds 12 rounds is the Taurus G2C, which we sell a lot of them.
Yeah.
But it's not 12... 12 people is not usually the...
Right.
12 is not the normal. It's usually 10.
Right.
And so if you go... if this passes here in a little bit, we're looking at... you're
taking your gun, this bill will do that.
You're
if you
really,
ever
oh
said,
my gosh, sorry. You're at 12. If that's not a helpful number. So if this passes, we're going to have to get magazines that are 10 because they don't make 12-round magazines, for Glock 17s. They make 17-round magazines or they make 10-round magazines, and so this whole 12 thing isn't really going to help us. So, all right. So we're still watching.
This bill will affect millions of Virginians.
I think what's happening is that my Senate feed is blocking the House feed. So sorry, Virginia Senate. I gotta cut you out here. This is just too important. What's
Getting
going
any
on
questions from
in the House of Delegates?
Okay.
When will House Bill 961 go into effect if it passes?
So they're talking about, the question is when will 961 go into effect? It looks like July 1.
Right.
And would be effective, you'll have to be able to comply till January 1, 2021.
Okay.
So if you have a high capacity magazine, that would be illegal after July 1, you'd have until January 1 to get rid of it. Now get rid of it is going to be...
taking your gun, this bill will do that. If you've ever said...
Cheesy wheezy. This is going to be a situation where you're going to be allowed to sell it on eBay or a gun broker. You're going to be able to move it out of the state. You're just not going to be allowed to have it in Virginia. Otherwise, having it would make it a crime.
Right.
So.
Okay.
The delegate from Fairfax, Delegate Helmer.
All right.
Madam Speaker, speaking to the bill.
Delegate Helmer, you have the floor.
Madam Speaker, this bill will affect...
All right. This is Delegate Helmer, who is speaking in support of the bill. These guys really feel that the magazine capacity is going to change the lay of how these things work.
Right.
So,
taking your gun, this bill will do that.
what the heck is happening? We're having technical difficulties here. So, any other questions, Tara, while we're trying to get this back up?
Okay.
They will also have technical.
Is that, are other people having trouble with this? It's kind of looping. Yeah.
Yeah.
The delegate from Fairfax, Delegate Helmer.
Madam Speaker, speaking to the bill.
Delegate Helmer, you have the floor.
Madam Speaker, this bill will affect millions of Virginians.
Huh.
So repeat, okay.
So yeah, we're getting to Delegate Helmer, and it is freezing. I've not had this problem until right now. Let's see if we can change the browser around. I know this isn't typically how our live streams go, but we're definitely want to hear what the House of Delegates is doing on 961 for sure.
Yeah.
I have a feeling lots of people have
Flooded it. No,
flooded it, and they may have
jumped on board.
knocked
rather.
it offline.
Yeah.
That would be very disappointing if that happens.
Yeah. But anyway, what you're doing, also I know you're engaged
Yeah,
with
knock
that,
it out.
but you're engaged, you're on your Facebook page, you started another one called Engage Your Government, that's created by Attorney Anderson. You're making your tour around Virginia, speaking about the Second Amendment and other bills.
Yep.
Any more upcoming dates? I saw one you had a couple days ago.
Tara, what are we doing on, what are the dates for the concealed carry classes? We can talk about that.
Okay, all right.
I'm getting a fatal error, too many connections to the House of Delegates.
That's a good thing in one way. Thank you.
Looks like a lot of people are
lot of
watching
folk
in.
watch.
That stinks for me because I've been connected to this thing all day. So we're doing the Utah concealed carry class in a few jurisdictions. So this weekend we're doing Radford, Sunday. That's Christiansburg. What's the next one?
217 Monday here.
Okay, February
Okay.
17th, Monday here at the gun shop in Virginia Beach. That's our next Utah class after that.
Windsor, March 7th.
Windsor on March 7th.
And then we're planning Fredericksburg in March.
Fredericksburg in March. Now, the
Okay.
reason people are going to want to do the Utah classes is that there's a bill before the both chambers where it's going to allow the restriction of reciprocity with certain states. And so a lot of people are trying to get into the Utah permit so that their reciprocity agreements would be good in other states.
Right.
Now, you don't need that if you only care about being in Virginia or North Carolina. But if you're looking to have reciprocity, your permit be good in other places other than the close states around here, you're going to want to look at getting another permit. And Utah is one of those. Now, there are other permits that you can look at, like getting a Florida out-of-state permit or getting a Arizona permit, but we teach the Utah permit. We think that's probably the best one and the one that's most readily and easily obtainable. Let's see if we can connect now.
72, nays 26, abstentions 1.
Aye 72, nays 26, abstentions 1. The bill passes.
What happened? Can't see it. What were the numbers?
HB 961 passed, 51
HB
to 48.
961 passed, 5148. I missed it. Sorry, there was a
Right.
technical problem. So 961 has passed. It's heading on to the Senate. Now, we do know that the Senate has problems with that, and it's going to be up to the Senate now to block it. So 961 has passed. That's where we are right now with the House of Delegates. Wow. What was the number? How many people voted?
51-48.
5148. So there you go.
All right.
All right, well, let's talk about it. Let's really break it down. So if that becomes law, if you have a modern sporting rifle, you can keep it. If you have a suppressor, you can keep it. You're not going to have to register any of these things. If you have a pistol that can hold more than a higher capacity
Right.
pistol, you can keep that. You can keep any of the what's determined assault weapons under the bill. You're going to be allowed to keep them. The question is going to be, you're not going to be able to sell or buy them after July 1, and you're going to have until January 1, 2021 to comply. Right. And the big implication here is it's going to be now a misdemeanor under Virginia law to possess the magazine. There's no grandfather clause to that, so you're not going to be able to have your AR-15 legally and then have your 30-round magazine legally. The magazine's going to have to go pursuant to if 961 actually makes it through the Senate. So that's 961.
So good things in many ways.
It watered down.
Watered down, yeah.
And a lot, nobody on the Second Amendment side is gonna see any of this as good, but it is definitely watered down from where it was. I mean, even Friday, having the magazine, it was going to be a felony.
Right.
Now it's a misdemeanor. So it's dramatically watered down. We do know that in the Senate, that Senator Lewis has openly come out and said he's not going to support it. Now, the makeup of the Senate is 21-19. So 21 Democrats and 19 Democrats. Or 21 Democrats, 19 Republicans. So basically, you take Lewis out of the equation, that gives you 20-20. So that's a dead split. And if they voted that way, then Fairfax, the lieutenant governor, would break that vote, and he would certainly go for it. So we got to get at least one more senator to go the other way to make it to where we need to have basically at least a 21-19 vote in the Senate to beat 961, because obviously if 961 passes the Senate, the governor is definitely going to sign it.
Right.
So there's really no need to write Senator Lewis. He's already on board. So looking at the softer Democrats, Senator Edwards, Senator Morrissey, and those are definitely those two. I would definitely be looking at those two. And then if you happen to live in a jurisdiction where your senator is a Democrat, you're going to want to write to them as well as their constituent and tell them that you don't want to see 961 pass. We are looking at 961 being the, making millions of people in Virginia criminals and the only way to avoid being a criminal is to get rid of your property. Take your magazine and get rid of it, either selling it, throwing it away, moving it out of Virginia. That's the only way you're going to be able to comply and not be a criminal under 961 with any kind of a pistol that has more than 12 capacity.
So most of us are safe in some regards.
Yeah, you're going to be safe as long as you're willing to give up your magazine. That's the thing. You're going to have to give up your magazine if you have a magazine that has 12 or more.
Right.
And, if your Glock 17, which holds 17 rounds, the Glock is fine. You just got to take the magazine out of it, and you're going to have to replace it with a 12 or less magazine. And the only ones that they really make are 10-round magazines. Right. So that is how you're going to be able to comply if this makes it. Now keep in mind, it has not made it yet. It's passed the House, and now it's going to the Senate. And we know we at least have one person that is on our side, and we have to look and hopefully engage some of the other senators to kind of push it this way.
I got you. Some of your colleagues, we got to give a shout out and say kudos to Senator Amanda Chase.
Woo!
Yeah, she's doing fantastic in the 11th Senatorial District. That includes Amelia, I think I typed my typos wrong, Chesterfield, and her efforts to protect the Second Amendment. Kudos to her. We appreciate all of her work over the last couple of months or so. And there are others who are coming to the forefront, many, many names here. And it's important for you to make the phone call, get on the horn, as we say. I think just to kind of support them, say thanks to those who are in support of our efforts to keep the Second Amendment clean,
which is the
strong.
Yeah, so Amanda Chase has announced today that she got pushed around in the Senate yesterday. And one of the senators told her that they were not going to let her bills move forward because of her reckless, in our video she put this on her page today, but of her reckless support of her reckless support of gun safety laws being proposed through the Virginia Senate. So they've sabotaged her ability to produce bills, have even bills be voted on, because they don't like the fact that she's been saying on Facebook and other social media supporting the Second Amendment. Okay. So she got a letter from one of the senators about this, and she said she's going to make a floor speech later today about that. So we'll be interested to see what happens from there. So lots of drama today in the House of Delegates and the Senate. The minimum wage bill went through today. So minimum wage bill is going to be $10, then $11, then $12, then $13, then $14, then $15. So by 2027, minimum wage in Virginia is going to be at $15 an hour. And we have talked about this ad nauseum, that when you raise minimum wage, commodity prices have to increase, right?
Inevitably, yes.
And even more important, right now, $15 an hour would be considered a premium wage in Virginia.
Mm-hmm.
And so for me to hire a legal assistant at $15 an hour, I can hire higher quality workers at that rate. But if now $15 an hour is the minimum wage, then I'm going to have to pay workers more money to get the premium workers, right, in the law office. And that's what's going to happen to everybody. I mean, every single business and every single industry is going to have to pay more for labor when you have basically minimum wage going from $8 an hour to $15 an hour in just 6 years.
Yes.
It's gonna dramatically inflate goods and services in Virginia.
That's inevitable. It's going to happen.
And what's going to happen is, and you've probably already seen it if you've been into McDonald's,
Right.
You order on a computer now, right?
That's right, yeah.
And so they're going to find ways to automate and not have as many people in the equation, because the reason McDonald's is popular is because you can get a meal for $8 or $9, right?
Fast and cheap.
Fast and cheap, and they're
You're
gonna
right.
they're gonna try to keep that business model. And if they have to pay more for wages, food prices are the same or probably going up because you're gonna have to pay more for food too. Then they're gonna find ways to cut labor.
Right, right.
So, Tara, what questions we have? Anything good?
Majority are asking about suppressors.
Suppressors are
Yeah.
fine under 961. Suppressors are going to be fine. You're not allowed to sell them under 961, but you are going to be allowed to transfer them under the National Firearms Act. So if you are going to take your 960 your suppressor and you're going to transfer it to a family member or to a trust, you'll still be allowed to do that. You're just not going to be able to purchase them in Virginia, and you're not going to be able to sell them in Virginia. But keeping the ones you currently have, you're going to be allowed to do under 961.
Yeah, yeah. This is an interesting thing, and you were at the forefront of this some months back. We've been doing this since, I think, December or so. But it's exciting to see. Granted, some people say it's just a posturing, but it's exciting to see the 2A movement that's going across the country now. I noticed West Virginia, and then LaPierre and Delta counties, and some others in Michigan are jumping on board for this. But you presented a strategy to help those folks understand the economic aspects of it, that it is viable, it has teeth. How are you going to enforce it?
Yeah. How are you going to enforce it?
Right.
How are the police going to find out if you have a magazine of 14, 15 rounds in your house?
Right.
How are they going to do it?
Search warrant.
Well, yeah, but they'd have to have reason for a search warrant.
Probable
They
cause,
just
of
can't.
course.
They just can't go door to door.
Right.
So they've got to come up with something, some reason to be in your house. So maybe it's a red flag law.
Red flag law, yeah.
All right. Or maybe it's a domestic situation where somebody calls the police and the police are coming in to check.
Right.
Or maybe it's a loud noise violation. Maybe the cops get to your house and they smell an odor of marijuana, although marijuana is going to be legal. It looks
Right.
like they're going to zip that one through today in the Senate. But, some kind of reason for them to come in your house. And then they're going to find the gun. Or you're going to get pulled over for a traffic violation, and then they're going to find the gun in your car, and that's how they're going to do it. So from an enforcement standpoint, one thing about criminal law is just because something's illegal doesn't mean that everybody who breaks the law gets caught. Okay? I mean, that's just how criminal laws work. And so, the most common ways you're going to get caught are going to be when the police come into contact with you and they find this gun. Now, certainly, a Class 1 misdemeanor is punishable by a year in jail and a $2,500 fine. So you can't willfully disobey the law, because you could end up going to jail for a period of time simply for having a magazine. But we do have to come up with a strategy. And if 961 clears the Senate, which hopefully it won't, but if it does, then the only real good advice is going to be to move those magazines out of the Commonwealth, either by sale or transfer or just relocation, until we can get to 2021 and get some more appropriate people in office.
Yeah. We've got some local elections coming up here the next couple of weeks or so, months.
I'm glad you said that. So one of the bills they've advanced is the locality bill, which is going to allow localities to make gun laws inside the locality, right? Related to where gun-free zones. So they can make gun-free zones. A city can choose to make a gun-free zone in a park, in public buildings, in streets adjacent to permitted events. So like if we have something in the water down here in Virginia Beach, the Atlantic Boulevard, they could make the entire strip of Atlantic Boulevard a gun-free zone. They're going to be able to do that. And what's going to be problematic with that, especially if you're like a contractor and you got to go from city to city to pull zoning permits or building permits, and you go in you have a gun and it's legal in Chesapeake, but now it's illegal in Virginia Beach, it's going to be a big problem. And so, as we've done this Second Amendment sanctuary stuff, we're now going to have to go back to localities and say, we need you to pass an ordinance that says you're not going to exercise this power, because it's going to be a total nightmare. Not only are there hundreds of laws in Virginia we're going to have to we already have to follow, and more are coming, but now there's going to be different laws in Chesapeake than there are in Virginia Beach, than there are in Norfolk, than there are in Portsmouth. If you put your gun in your pocket and you walk your dog down the street and you happen to, cut through a park,
Right.
you might be committing a crime.
Right, right.
And that's outrageous. It's just it'll be impossible for any of us to really know what the hell's going on in any of these cities, even the ones we currently live in. What's a governmental building? Well, what if you have a firearm in the at the rec center, in your gym bag, and they're voting that day? Now is that a governmental building? Subject to what the gun-free zone is? It's just a nightmare to allow localities to do this, and so we're going to have to go back to the localities and tell them, hey, you passed 140 have passed gun-free, or not gun-free, but Second Amendment sanctuaries. So let's pass an ordinance. You're not going to you're not going to pass new ordinances related to gun laws. They have the power to do it. They don't have to do it. And what we need to do is go back to them and say, this is what we need to do. Vincent Smith is taking this on with the Virginia Beach side, but all of you who've been involved in the sanctuary thing, we're going to have to do round 2 of this just as soon as these bills, kick through and the governor signs them.
Right. I want to go back to the red flag law, and pardon the pun, I know that's a red flag for
Sure.
a lot of folks, but those who are completely opposed to it, their fear is that, as you cited in the example, that they can be wrongfully charged, or someone make a complaint. Next thing you know, they have to give up the magazines as it is right now, or others. But there are some pragmatic aspects of this where laws are already on the books in support of those who are mentally unstable for handling firearms. Domestics, the laws are already on the books, right?
Right, yeah.
So we don't need any more laws.
What are red flags primarily geared at? Really 2 different people. Suicidal people and domestic abusers. Okay, that's
Right.
primarily. I mean, there's not too many people out there that you're planning to go shoot up a mall or something like that you're talking about that to most people, right?
Right.
And so usually the people that are going to hit these red flags are going to be closely connected to the person. So either a loved one or a friend or a family member or a coworker, somebody that's closely connected to the people. And you're right. There's 2 ways currently to deal with them other than red flags. One, you can get a temporary detention order, which puts them in a mental hospital for a period of time for evaluation to see if they are suicidal or homicidal or they can't care for themselves. Or you can get a protective order if you're the person that they're threatening, right? And spouses do that all the time with each other. You have a spouse that goes down and gets a protective order that keeps you away from me, and it makes you not be able to have a gun when the protective order's in place. And so the red flag laws aren't going to dramatically change anything, and if anything, they're going to probably make things worse, because at least with a protective order or a mental health issue, you're doing something with the person, right? So you're either putting them in a mental hospital or you're giving them an order that says you can't get near this person. At least you're doing something to their person. But with a red flag law, all they're going to come to your house, they're going to search your house, and they're going to take whatever firearms they find, and then they're going to leave. And whatever's wrong with that person isn't going to evaporate.
That's correct. That's right.
Just because the guns are gone, it's like, oh, I'm not going to kill myself anymore because you took my guns, right? And so it's not going to be the magic pill that the Democrats have purported that it will be. Questions, Tara, from the Peanut Gallery.
All right. Back to suppressors. Since it's a process to buy them, do you have to have them before this?
Yeah, so 961 says they cannot be transferred after July 1.
Okay,
So
you can't be in the application process.
Well, you could be in the application process, but gun shops are not going to be able to transfer them after July 1. It takes about a year for the ATF to do this application process. So if you try to go in today to buy a suppressor, it's not going to be back in time before 961 would become law. Now that's assuming, of course, it becomes law. We certainly don't know it. It's one step closer today than it was when we started this video. But if it does become law and you aren't already in the process, you're not going to be able to do it. So, in Virginia at least. Now, you can buy a suppressor in North Carolina. There's no prohibition about that. it's not a pistol. You can certainly buy a suppressor from a dealer in another state. You're just not going to be able to do that transaction in Virginia. And the law is going to say in Virginia, for it to be legal, you've had to have owned it prior to the effective date, which is going to be July 1. So if you want a suppressor after July 1, you can buy it in another state. You just have to keep it out of state.
961, if it passes, how long would it be tied up in the court system?
Huh. Who knows?
That's a very good question. Thank you.
I mean, who knows?
Very good question.
I mean, probably the first thing he's going to do, somebody's going to file a lawsuit for an injunction. That'll happen pretty quick. And then that decision will probably get appealed to the Supreme Court. That'll probably take, pretty quick as well. Probably 6 months. We're going to have a decision from the Supreme Court whether there should be an injunction. Then it's going to go back to the lower court for I'm assuming we're going to file on the state side. So then we're going to go back to the lower court. We're going to have, trials on the merits and all of that, years, probably 2 years, maybe 3, before it all settles out, both either on the federal side or the state side. Mm-hmm. That case in California, where the California judge declared the magazine capacity ban to be unconstitutional, it took 14 years.
Okay.
For that to happen. So 14 years from the effective date of that law till the time a judge finally said that law was unconstitutional. And it's still on appeal. It's still going to take forever to go through the court process. So.
One more. Does 961 only apply to centerfire weapons or rimfire?
It looks like it's just centerfire, but it does apply to shotguns too, as far as the magazine capacity goes. So it does not look like cylindrical tubes for rimfire are going to apply to the magazine portion ban. So, all right. Anything else there, Tara?
Not right now.
All right. So back to the Utah permit. So if you don't care about reciprocity, you don't need the Utah permit. If you do care about reciprocity, you still don't need the Utah permit today because we don't know exactly which states are going to get revoked yet. But we just know that there's authority now for them to do it, and you're going to start seeing revocation come down. Now, there is a silver lining to some of the revocation. It does look like if we revoke with a couple of states, we will get reciprocity with Maryland, which we don't currently have. And Maryland's not easy to get. And so there could be, we might lose Tennessee and Georgia, but we pick up Maryland, and that could be good for some people and not. And so your remedy is going to be is if your reciprocity gets revoked and you want to have, and you're going to go through a certain state or cluster of states, and you want to carry your firearm, then you have to get a permit that's valid in those states. So you get a Utah permit, you get an Arizona permit, Florida permit, whatever you're going to get, you just got to make sure that whatever out-of-state permit you're getting is good in those states. And so Utah seems to be the biggest number. Hey Tara, look on the screen. How many or on yours? How many people are live watching right now?
387.
Okay, about 400 people. Good. All right.
So still got to wait, folks.
Yeah, so we aren't going to know, by the way, if the Senate's going to pass 961 until probably the beginning of March. Beginning of March is going to be the kind of the target date of when the Senate's going to finish up their business. So we're probably not going to have a definitive answer as to whether 961 is going to become law until then.
All right.
Sure.
How do magazine blocks affect the magazine restrictions?
You can't do it. The law is going to say, the question is can you put a plug in the magazine? The question is going to answer that is no. The magazine cannot be designed to hold more than 12 to be in compliance with 961. So, all right, is that good? We got good on the questions? Okay, go ahead.
Will gun-free zones have to post signs?
No, not necessarily. I mean, you do have to have, for instance, you go into a Buffalo Wild Wings place. On the very bottom, it'll say no guns allowed, private businesses. And they do have to announce that, right? And if you go into the mall, it'll say in the and the code of conduct, no baggy pants, no guns, that kind of stuff. Those signs do have to be posted, but they don't have to be in every possible way in and out of the establishment. And so you do have to kind of understand that it's not like there's, if you go into MacArthur Mall through Dillard's, and then you pop into the mall, there's not going to be a sign right there that says no guns or gun-free zone. And so you're going to have to just be careful that these signs may be posted on doors that are maybe the main entrances, but not the only way in. What do you got back there? I can see you looking. You just looking? All right. We got a little audience here. It's pretty amazing. A live studio audience, right? We used to in the radio have the button where people would clap for us, but it was just you and me. Now we literally have a live audience out here.
Literally. So. Which is good in many ways.
All right, so tell me again the dates of the concealed carry class. I know we're going to Christiansburg on Sunday. We're going to Virginia Beach, the gun shop, on Monday. And then we're going, when's the next one?
Windsor on the 7th.
Windsor on March 7th.
And then Fredericksburg is still on the planning.
Fredericksburg is on the planning, but what day are we looking at?
The 21st.
The 21st. That's subject to my wife approving that date. And we're waiting for that confirmation. That doesn't happen as quickly as you hope for around here. So, and then we also have a Virginia Beach class in March as well. The Virginia Beach class is always the second Saturday of the month, so that's going to be on the 14th. So, all right.
I want to ask a question.
Oh, look, you might hear this new voice in the background.
So somebody had wrote if they've had their handgun for 10 years and it only holds a 15-round magazine, does it ban the handgun?
It does not ban the handgun.
But he just has to get rid of the magazine.
Right. The magazine is what's going to be the problem. So every handgun that is out there is a 10-round magazine for. The manufacturers have made those to comply with California and New York. And so you can go to our gun page, our gun shop webpage at courthouseguns.com, not today, but courthouseguns.com, and you put in your firearm, like, SIG 238, and put in magazine, and you can buy the smaller magazine for any handgun that's out there. But that is going to be what you're going to have to do to comply with 961 if that makes it all the way through. The gun itself is going to be legal, right?
As we're talking, the fallacy of this.
It's totally unbelievable. I mean, if you accept the premise, which I do not, but if you accept the premise that an AR-15 is a death machine,
right.
it's designed only to hunt and kill humans, and there's no other legitimate purpose for it, and there's, it shouldn't be in society. All the things the Democrats have said all this season long. They're still going to get to keep them.
Do you see Bloomberg?
Yes. The only
has 3 rounds.
Yes.
Oh man, please! You want to be president? No.
The only difference is going to be is that there's 10. You can only have 10 of these death items in your firearm rather than 30. It's such an unbelievably watered down bill. But it is interesting to watch that, the governor, this all started with Senate Bill 16, right?
Yeah.
And Senate Bill 16 initially said all assault weapons, basically any semi-automatic rifle, any suppressors, any magazines over 10, you're felon. You can't keep them. You got to get rid of them. Then the governor, the big backlash happens in the state, and then the governor's like, well, you can keep them, but we're going to have to register them. And so then they incorporated all this crazy registration language in 961.
Right.
And then they had to back that out because the public was going crazy about that. And now they're backing out that it's being a felony out of there. So now it's really just turned into a magazine ban. I mean, that's literally all it has become is a magazine ban and a sale ban after July 1. That's what they've come out with, which is a long way from where Senate Bill 16 started and what started the entire revolution of of people going through and getting these sanctuary things. All right, Peanut Gallery. You got anything? Go ahead, Mark. Keep talking if they don't.
Background.
Universal background checks.
Universal background checks.
That cleared.
Yeah.
So anytime you want to sell a private party sale, you're going to have to now go through a gun shop.
Yeah.
Works great for me owning a gun shop because I'm going to get to charge you some money for that. Works out really good for the gun shops. But the reality is that for me to sell you a gun directly, personally, to person, you'll have to come in and get a background check.
Yeah. Which, didn't mean to interrupt, but your philosophy, your principle is the integrity of the system.
Well, I mean, yeah, if you're going to have background checks, it really doesn't make a lot of sense not to do it, right? But, there's the preface that a new firearm requires a background check, but a used firearm does not, never made sense to me, and that was long before I owned a gun shop. Either we're going to do background checks or we're not going to do background checks. But nonetheless, with all of you millions of people out there that are going to have to buy magazines, hopefully from me, I'm going to make money on that deal. I'm going to make money on the background checks for private party. I'm going to get rich. I'm going to buy an island of all the money I'm going to get to make on all these magazines. So it's going to benefit. The gun shops are going to come out big winners, definitely, in the compliance of these laws. But, the question really is going to be, two drug dealers on the side of the road selling a gun to each other.
Right.
Are they going to go into a gun shop to make that transaction legal? Of course not, right? You go into a park that's a gun-free zone. Is the guy going to not shoot you in the park because it's a gun-free zone? Mm-hmm. Of course not. The truth and the reality is that the laws that they're making are absolutely not going to be followed by the criminals, and we're not going to be an ounce safer after all this passes than we were. And the other thing is that if I have a gun pistol with 17 rounds magazine in it, right? I'd be a misdemeanor now. It was a felony last week, but I'm committing a crime. But if I have a firearm with 12 rounds in it and I have 10 magazines on me, I have 120 rounds. Totally legal. Right? Totally legal. So the guy walking around with 120 rounds, and these things can be ejected quickly and reloaded fast, that guy is 100% in compliance with the law, but the guy with the one magazine with 17 rounds, he's got to go to jail. It's mind blowing to think about how stupid that even sounds coming out of my mouth. I mean, I'm coming, all these degrees and everything. That is legitimately the law of what it's going to be if 961 makes it out.
Right.
You guys got anything?
How is that going to benefit the people?
All right.
It's going to benefit the gun shops for having to sell all the magazines. It's going to benefit the firearm industry because of all the extra magazines they're going to sell, but it's not going to. The idea is going to make us safer. Right. When I said, the guy with 4 magazines with 15 rounds versus the guy with 5 magazines and 12 rounds, it's still 60 bullets either way. Come on, come up. Really, is it going to make any changes to anything? Terry, you got anything good? Not right now. Okay, good. All right. Well, so National Popular Vote Compact passed the House. The minimum wage passed. We saw the one gun bill did fail. The one where you're going to pay a $250 penalty if you don't report it lost or stolen. We saw the House pass the pretty much everything that the governor has wanted in his 7-point thing: universal background checks, red flags, everything the governor's wanted. The House has passed. The only thing that has been dramatically watered down is the assault weapons ban, which is 961 now. And we do have Senator Lewis saying he's not going to support it, so we do need to find other ways to get some senators to engage and not do that. And you know what? I'll tell you 2 things. One, if you want to get your Democrat senators to engage with you, calling them tyrants doesn't work.
That's right.
Telling them that they're traitors doesn't work,
Good
right?
point, yeah.
We have to be respectful to their office, make our case as logical as we can, and ask them to. I saw one of the delegates on the House today quote Alexander Hamilton, and I had wrote an email to all of them with the exact quote that he used today on the floor. I'm not saying he necessarily got it from me, but it was regarding Alexander Hamilton's defense about the how we vote in the national for the president. And maybe that came from me, maybe it didn't, who knows, but the point is that if I had said, hey, y'all are a bunch of tyrants, you scumbags, you demo rats, you all of the stuff that people say, it's just you're not gonna get the reception from these people if you talk like that and if you act like that. You've got to come up with a civil civil ID, and you also have to understand that there are a lot of people on the other side of the equation that want the Democrats to exactly be doing what they're doing. And so
Good point.
when
Yeah.
you're asking the Democrats to not listen to their base, then you have to give them compelling reasons. And if you start off by name calling them, you're going to lose the high ground pretty quick.
Tact and diplomacy.
That's right. The other thing is I think it'd be nice for all of us to take a deep breath and stop trying to blame somebody or something for what's happening. The Democrats won. They won pretty much fair and square. There's no real allegations of voter fraud or voter cheating or illegals coming in and voting and changing that. There's really none of that's there. They won. The reason that they won is that 40% of the people voted. That's it. 40% of the registered voters voted. If we had 60% of the registered voters vote, and more people voted for Republicans, we wouldn't even be doing this show right here on this subject. And so the reality is that we are not so far down the line where we can't pull this stuff back. But it's about waking up. It's not about blaming Bloomberg. It's not about the liberal media conspiracy. It's the fact that people didn't show up and vote. And had they have, we would have a different outcome. And that's the absolute reality. All right, we've got a couple more minutes. Anything else, Tara, before we go?
No, it's a lot of people asking if you put less rounds in it.
No. If the magazine can hold more than 12, that's a crime under 961. So if you have a 15-round magazine and you only put 12 in it, you're still committing a crime having the magazine. And so you're going to have to, if it goes through the Senate, as it is, you're going to have to get rid of it. It has to be gone.
What do we do with them?
Get them out of Virginia.
Sell them.
Sell them.
eBay.
Yeah, Gunbroker. Gunbroker is the eBay of the internet.
Okay.
Yeah, you sell them on Gunbroker. You throw them away in the trash can. You move them out of state. You put them in get them to your family in North Carolina or South Carolina.
Okay.
And it's legal to ship magazines, unloaded magazines. You don't have to do that through a dealer. So you can literally put all your high capacity magazines and ship it to your brother in Pennsylvania, and they can stay there until we get control of this insanity. Again, nothing you have to do today because the law isn't the law yet. We're just going to have to watch and see what happens right around the beginning of March in the Senate. So
then keep our eye on July 1st.
July 1 is going to be the effective date, but we're going to know St. Patrick's Day. We're going to know very clearly, and then we're going to do what you just said. I'm going to set up town halls about how to comply.
Okay.
All right. All right, Tara. Well, come over and hit the stop button. We'll see you guys next week on the Anderson Law Power Hour with Tim Anderson and Mark Rollison.
Big voice guy.
It's on the bottom right corner.